It's all very well to save and invest money, but what's the point if you don't know what your goal is and whether it will actually be enough to live and retire comfortably? After years of feeling anxious and directionless, I've finally figured out a practical way to answer this question and to create a concrete idea of what I'm working towards. Hey friends, Tegan and Ambi here. When I started working, I was told that if I save a portion of my income every month, I would be all set and good for retirement. But how much would that get me, and would it actually be enough? Given that these days we are working shorter and living longer than ever before, I wasn't convinced. So I went on a mission to figure out exactly how much I would need, and you can too. Before we look at numbers, let's take a moment to think about what does it really mean to have enough to retire? And what does retiring even mean? For simplicity, I'm going to talk about retirement in this video, but what I really mean is financial independence, or having enough money that working becomes optional. It's something that you can do because you really love the job, or maybe you have a bigger purpose to fulfill, but not something that you have to do because you need the money. You don't even know what working is, Ambi. You just know how to sleep and eat and interrupt my videos. You become financially independent when you have enough money to provide an income for yourself to sustain your desired lifestyle. So you should start by asking yourself, how much do you need for your current lifestyle? Let's look at me as an example. To maintain my current lifestyle, I have to pay all the usual things like rent, medical aid, car insurance, and a few others, including my variable expenses portion. All of this totals just under 20,000 Rand. So let's round it up to be conservative. Notice that I included my short-term savings for travel, as I do want to be able to travel when I retire. But I didn't include my retirement investments, because I'll be living off that money instead. From here, I'll take this 20,000 and multiply it by 12 to get the annual amount that I will need, which is 240,000. Great, but what does this tell me? Basically, I need enough money in my investment portfolio to be able to take out 240,000 Rand every year. And I need to be able to do this for the rest of my life after I stop working. Remembering that my money will be invested in assets that grow over time, i.e. the stock market. This is where it gets a little bit abstract, because we have to use some assumptions to predict how much I can expect my money to grow. There are a number of different frameworks that people use, and there is a lot of discussion and debate about which one is the most reliable or accurate. I'm pretty comfortable with the 4% rule, which was created in the mid-90s by a financial planner in California called Bill Bengen. Bengen used historical stock market data over a period of 50 years and concluded that withdrawing 4% of their portfolio per year was the most conservative number a person could use and still not run out of money for over 30 years. So, if I assume that I can safely withdraw 4% of my portfolio every year, how much does my portfolio need to be? My portfolio times 4% must give me 240,000. This becomes 240,000 divided by 0.04, which is 6 million. My financial independence number is 6 million Rand. For simplicity, this calculation is the same as multiplying by 25. Or you can even take your monthly amount and multiply it by 300, because 12 times 25 is 300. The calculations we just did are super useful for planning and to give you peace of mind that you are indeed working towards a realistic goal. But there are some important caveats to keep in mind. Firstly, the monthly expenses calculation that I showed is obviously an estimate. There's a high chance that my home will have a drastically different cost, and this applies to a lot of people. Maybe you'll be paying more for rent, or maybe you would have paid off a whole house by that time. So try to think realistically about what your home expenses might be when you retire. Usually, you would also anticipate an increase in your medical expenses as you get older. But this is a great motivator to invest in your physical and mental health while you're still young. If you're a parent, you can probably safely remove things like school fees and the cost of clothes for your children. Next, this estimate excludes the impact of tax. To be more accurate, you would need to include the cost of tax in your financial independence number. The 4% rule theoretically ensures that you will never run out of money. You could retire with less, still withdraw 4%, and then eventually run out of money one day. Depending on your situation, you might be forced to make this adjustment, and that's okay, but just keep it in mind. Lastly, and most importantly, remember that all of these calculations that we did are in terms of today's money. If I were to retire today, I would need 6 million rand. But I'm going to retire in like minimum 15 years. So I'll actually need the equivalent of 6 million in 15 years' time, adjusted for inflation. This one can really sneak up on you, as inflation is out of your control. But the easiest way to remember it is to recalculate your financial independence number every so often. As your monthly expenses rise with inflation, your calculation will reflect that. Now that you know how to calculate a realistic estimate of what you will need to retire, you can start working towards actually building up that nest egg. If you struggle to get your money into all the right places every month, check out my last video about the really simple budget system that I use.